Hi all, welcome yet again to another Friday Drum Talk, and I thought this week we would continue on with drum tuning. 2 weeks ago we did bass drum tuning. If you haven't seen that video, please go back and check it out. And last week we did tom tuning, and as with bass drum, feel free to go back and check that out. And so this week I thought, well, I might as well complete the whole drum kit, and we'll look at some snare drum tuning. As with all of the tuning videos, I've mentioned that I often tune the top head or the batter head for feel, and I use the bottom head for tone. When it comes to snare drums, it's still a bit like that, but rather than tone on the bottom head, how much attack and the crack that you want in your snare drum. I find when you really screw up your reso head, you get a really bright and aggressive sort of attack and snap to your snare drum. So that's something to think about. Now I'm not going to go through and just totally rehead the snare drum and start from scratch. I'm sure you've tuned a snare drum before, or at least know the process of it. I'll just quickly run through. If I was putting a new head on the top, I would finger tighten down all of the tuning lugs. Once I get it finger tight, then I would go about a quarter to a half turn, one lug at a time. I would normally go from one side to the other, but for me I like using two tuning keys. So I'd start, half turn and then move on, half turn, and work myself around the actual drum till I get it up to a tension that I really like the feel of under stick, but also roughly around the pitch that I would like. Now, speaking of pitch, a lot of people tune their snare drums to an actual note. I don't do that. And if you saw any of my other tuning videos from the last 2 weeks, you would know that I rather tune to a pleasant pitch that's pleasant to my ears, regardless of what note that is. I'll tune it up and think, yeah, that's what I want. Also, how I tune a snare drum has got a lot to do with the style of music I'm going to play on that snare drum. So, if I'm playing, let's say, early rock and roll, I'll probably tune it a bit lower so I get that sort of, traditional sort of rock and roll sound out of it. If I'm playing funk, I'll crank it up a bit higher and get a brighter, more, not choked, but a more, high-pitched, dry sort of sound out of it. Also, too, I've mentioned before, but, the style of music you play, the type of snare drum that you actually use for the type of music you play is really important if you want to get into real detail. If you're playing rock, if you're in a heavy metal band, you probably wouldn't use a 5-inch wood snare drum, and the same type of thing. If you're playing jazz, you probably wouldn't want to use a cast steel 6.5, 8-inch deep snare drum. There's certain metals and woods that go with certain styles of music. I did a video a while back there on snare drums. If you go back through my videos, you'll see one, and I talked a little bit about that, using the right snare drum for the style of music you're playing. So that might be worth checking out too. If I think of it once I load up this video, I'll try and get some of those links and put them in the description below, so it makes it easier for you to check those videos out. So hopefully I'll remember to do that. But anyway, let's get back to tuning. So as I said, I'd put the top head on, I'd finger tighten it down, and then from there, then I go about a half turn at a time. Opposite, if I've got one tuning key, I'd go half turn, half turn, half turn, half turn, and work myself around, or use two keys, half turn, half turn, half turn, and so on. That'd be the way to go. Get it up to roughly where you feel you would want it. Then the snare drum, then the reso side, where the snare bed side, I would do the same. And with the bottom reso head, as I said earlier, if I tighten it up really tight, it tends to look at it like the higher you tighten the reso head, the more attack and crack you sort of get in your snare drum. So if you're after more aggressive sort of sound, or more bright and more in your face type snare sound, then really crank up your reso head. And I tune it exactly the same way as the batter head. I bring the tuning lugs up to finger tight, then go around about a half turn at a time. I really like my reso head to be really quite tight. When I put my fingers down on it, there's really not much give in that, so it's actually quite tight, and that often gives me a good sort of attack in my snare drum. And then I will often then lower, either loosen off or tighten the batter head to give me the sound that I want after that. So I tighten my reso head to give me the crack and I suppose attack, and then I adjust my batter head to give me a bit deeper, a bit thinner, or whatever sound I'm actually creating. Another point about your reso head, once you've tuned it all up, you want to try and get it, each lug is tuned as same pitch as best you can. One of the ways to do that, if you've already got your snare wire on there, is to actually turn off your snare and just stick a drumstick through it like so, and then you can actually get to each of these lugs and just get them as even as you can. And if you can hear this, that's about the pitch. Oh, if I put it back down here, I normally have it about that high on a a shallow metal snare drum anyway. So as you can hear, I'm just hitting this now with my finger, and I've noticed that some of these lugs are a little bit out. So I get it as close as I possibly can, and then that's sort of about it. And if I don't like the sound, if I think it hasn't got enough crack for me, then I'll probably screw up the reso head a little bit more. And if I think it's a little bit sort of low in sound, I will screw up the batter head, or the other way. If it sounds a little bit thin, it's not quite thick as what I want it, then I'll loosen off the top head a little bit. So that's basically the way I attack a snare drum when I'm tuning it. Unlike my tom-toms, I think I mentioned in my tom-tom video that I like to tune the batter and the reso head roughly about the same, or if not the same, I often will tune the reso head a little bit lower. If I tune it that way, it gives me more projection. With the snare drum, I tend to tune the bottom head probably higher, just to give that attack, like I said. So it just, to me, it actually works better that way. So anyway, people, I hope this has been a little bit helpful when it comes to snare drum tuning. And if you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel, Make an Old Drummer Happy. I'm trying to get my subscription up. A lot of people view my videos, but they don't hit that subscribe button. So if you wouldn't mind, please click it for me and let my channel grow and get to more people in that sense. Also, if you have any topics you would like me to talk about in Friday Drum Talk, please feel free to leave a message below, and I'll do my best to make a video on that topic at some stage. This is actually, I should have mentioned this snare drum too. This actually looks like a Ludwig Superphonic, but it's actually not. It's Ludwig Superphonics chrome over aluminium. This is a chrome over brass, and it's actually a reissue of a snare drum Ludwig used to make before they brought out the Superphonic, and they called it the Super. So this is chrome over brass, but it has actually has nickel hoops and nickel lugs, and it's a really good versatile drum. I use this a lot of the time when I'm going out and playing with different bands, not in my own band, when I'm just filling in for bands. It's very versatile. I can change the tuning really quick. I also use it a lot if I'm going away touring. It's just a little workhorse. It didn't cost a great deal, or, well, not as much as a lot of my snare drums. And you know, if I'm going to get one damaged or lost in an airline, in a plane, then I'll rather it be this one, easy to replace. So anyway, on that note, people, once again, thanks for watching me in this video. And if you like I said, if you like my videos, please subscribe and tell your drummer friends. Until next video, take care of yourself, take care of other people, play drums, keep smiling, and get out there in the world and show everyone your ability as a drummer. And until next time, bye.